At our family reunion, my cousin Stephen used emotional manipulation to beg for money, then things blew up in front of everyone. So, I just got back from what was supposed to be a relaxing family reunion at my Aunt Linda's lake house. Spoiler, it was anything but relaxing. If you've ever had that one cousin who just drains the entire vibe, you'll understand. For me, that's Stephen. He's 25, my cousin on my mom's side, and somehow always in the middle of some financial emergency. The reunion was supposed to be simple. Everyone brought food, we grilled outside, the kids swam, and the adults sat around telling stories. My Uncle John even rented a karaoke machine for later. I was genuinely looking forward to it. But the second Stephen showed up late, of course you could feel the energy shift. He came in wearing these ripped sneakers and a wrinkled t-shirt, carrying nothing but a backpack. My Aunt Linda immediately went into hostess mode. "Stephen, honey, you made it. Come get some food." He hugged her dramatically like he hadn't eaten in days. And right away, I knew. This wasn't going to be a normal reunion. During lunch, Stephen sat right between my mom and grandma, almost like he had strategically picked the two most sympathetic people. He started telling everyone how life's been rough and how his boss cut his hours unfairly. Classic Stephen setup. At first, people just nodded politely. But then he started dropping hints about bills. Stuff like, "Yeah, I don't even know how I'm going to cover rent this month. My car's making this weird noise, and the mechanic said it could be like $800. I swear, he rehearses these lines in the mirror." My mom immediately gave him her concerned look and asked, "Oh honey, have you been eating okay?" That's when Stephen leaned in with this fake sad smile and said, "I mean, sometimes I just skip meals, but it's fine. I'm used to it." Cue the dramatic sigh. Cue Gran clutching her chest like she was about to cry. Meanwhile, I'm sitting across the table just stabbing my potato salad, because I've seen this act 100 times. Every reunion, every holiday, Stephen manages to turn it into a fundraiser for his life. The tension built when my Uncle John, who's never been subtle, finally said, "Stephen, are you just here to ask for money again?" Everyone froze. Forks literally stopped mid-air. Stephen gave this wide-eyed, innocent look, like, "How could you even say that?" Then he went into full performance mode. He lowered his voice, making it shaky, and said, "I didn't want to bring it up, but since you asked, yeah, I'm really struggling, and I thought maybe family could help." And just like that, the whole reunion shifted from laughter and barbecue to Stephen's financial sob story hour. The worst part? Some people were buying it. Grandma was already reaching for her purse. My mom was whispering about setting up a loan. I just sat there, boiling, because I knew it was manipulation. But I had no idea just how fast Stephen was willing to push things that day. So after Stephen dropped his little "I thought family could help" line, the whole vibe tanked. The kids were still laughing and running outside, but inside the kitchen, it was dead silent except for the clinking of forks. Grandma, bless her, immediately said, "Of course we'll help you, sweetheart, your family. How much do you need?" I almost spit out my iced tea. She didn't even hesitate. My grandma lies on a fixed income, and here she was offering cash on the spot. Stephen put on this fake humble act, rubbing the back of his neck. I mean, I hate to even ask, but maybe like $1,000 just to get me through this month. I'll pay it back. I swear my jaw hit the table. $1,000? From Grandma, who literally counts coupons before going grocery shopping. My mom immediately started doing her problem-solver thing, whispering about maybe splitting the amount among the family so it wouldn't hurt anyone too much. Meanwhile, Uncle John wasn't having it. He leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Last time you borrowed money from me, Stephen, you vanished for 6 months, never saw a dime back." Stephen turned red, then quickly pivoted. "That was different. I was dealing with stuff. You don't know what it's like to feel unsupported." There it was. The emotional manipulation card. He wasn't just broke, now he was the victim of a family not understanding him. My Aunt Linda, trying to keep the peace, chimed in. Okay, let's not fight. Stephen's clearly under a lot of stress. Can we all just be compassionate?" At that point, my blood was boiling. Compassion is one thing, but letting him guilt-trip Grandma out of rent money? No. So I finally spoke up. "Stephen, come on, you've pulled this at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, even at Cousin Melissa's wedding, every time there's some new emergency. Where's all the money going?" He immediately glared at me like I just betrayed him on national TV. "Wow, really? You're gonna attack me in front of everyone? I came here hoping my family would support me, and instead, I get humiliated." He literally pushed his chair back, stood up, and made it look like I was bullying him. Grandma even scolded me. "Don't be so harsh, he's clearly suffering." That stung, because I love my grandma, but she was totally falling for his act. My mom gave me that "we'll talk later" look, which meant she was siding with him too. Meanwhile, Stephen was working the room like a politician. He sat next to Grandma, held her hand, lowered his voice, and said, "I just don't know how much longer I can keep living like this. Sometimes I wonder if I should even be here at all." And there was the nuclear option. Emotional manipulation at its peak. He was basically suggesting he might do something dangerous if he didn't get money. The room went ice cold. Even Uncle John shut up. Grandma gasped, my mom put her arm around him, and suddenly I was the bad guy for questioning him. That's when I realized, if someone didn't stop this, Stephen was about to walk out of the reunion with everyone's wallets emptied. So after Stephen dropped that heavy "I don't even know if I should be here anymore" line, the entire room basically froze. It was manipulative as hell, but effective. My grandma squeezed his hand like her life depended on it. My mom looked like she was about to cry. Even my usually stone-faced cousin David, who had been quietly scrolling on his phone in the corner, finally looked up. Aunt Linda rushed over with a glass of water like Stephen had just fainted or something. "Sweetie, don't say that, you're meant to be here. We love you." Stephen nodded slowly, like he was barely hanging on, and muttered, I don't know how much longer I can keep struggling like this. Every day feels like a fight just to survive." And that's when Grandma straight up pulled out her purse. She had her checkbook in hand, pen uncapped, ready to go. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Grandma, no, please, you can't just hand him money every time he puts on a show. He needs help, but not like this. He needs a plan, not a paycheck. Stephen whipped around, eyes wide, and practically shouted. Sure? You think I'm acting? Do you even hear yourself? You don't know what it's like to feel abandoned by your own family? My Uncle John let out a bitter laugh from across the room. Abandoned, buddy. We've been bailing you out for years. At some point, you gotta grow up. That set Stephen off. He slammed his hand on the table so hard the salt shaker tipped over. You all think I'm just some screw-up, don't you? You sit here in your nice house with your stable jobs and judge me. You have no idea what it's like. Not everyone was watching. Kids had even wandered in from outside, sensing the drama. Aunt Linda tried to shoo them away, but they just peeked through the door like it was the season finale of a soap opera. I stood up, because honestly, I was shaking with frustration. Stephen, stop twisting this. Nobody's judging you for struggling. We're judging you for manipulating Grandma with guilt every time you want cash. His face went red, and his voice cracked as he snapped back. You just hate me. You've always hated me because I can't live up to your perfect little life. That stung, because while my life isn't perfect, I've worked my butt off to stay independent. Hearing him spin it into me being some golden child was just another layer of his guilt trip. Grandma finally raised her voice, a rare thing for her. Enough, this is family. We help each other. I'm writing this check, and that's final. And just like that, she started scribbling numbers. My mom nodded approvingly, while Uncle John rubbed his temples in disbelief. Stephen leaned back in his chair, shoulders shaking like he was crying, but I swear there was a smirk hiding under it. He knew he had won. The breaking point for me was watching Grandma, who literally rations a heating bill in winter, sign away $1,000 she didn't have to give. That's when I decided I couldn't let this slide anymore. At this point, the tension in the kitchen was thicker than the barbecue smoke outside. Stephen was sitting there like a king who had just conquered the kingdom, clutching Grandma's check like it was a trophy. My mom was trying to whisper soothing words in his ear, probably thinking she was being subtle, but honestly, it was making my blood boil even more. I couldn't hold back. I slammed my hands on the table, making everyone jump. Stephen, this stops right now. You think emotional manipulation is how family works? That you get money every time you act sad? He whipped his head around, eyes wide and furious. You can't talk to me like that. I'm struggling, and you're just a heartless jerk. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm despite my anger. Heartless, I've watched you guilt every single adult in this house for years. You make Grandma cry, you make Mom feel like she's failing, and for what? To line your own pockets. Uncle John, who had been shaking his head in disbelief this entire time, finally stood up. Finally, somebody's calling him out. Stephen, you're 25, you need to take responsibility, not turn every family gathering into a begging session. Stephen started pacing, waving his arms like a man possessed. You don't understand. You have no idea what it's like to be me. I work, I try, and everything still falls apart. Do you think it's easy? Aunt Linda tried to calm the storm, stepping between us. Stephen, sweetie, don't make this harder than it has to be. Maybe we can all just... laugh. I snapped. Enough of that fake comment. This isn't about helping you. It's about controlling everyone with guilt, and I'm done watching it happen. For a moment, it was silent. The kids were staring like the adults had all lost their minds. Grandma looked shaken, clutching her check. My mom's eyes welled up, probably torn between defending him and seeing the truth. I was screaming. Stephen's face turned red, and he started shouting. You're all against me, even you, my cousin. Who should have my back? I leaned in, voice steady but sharp. Stephen, I am against this behaviour, not against you. We love you, but this ends today. You can't keep using family like a cash machine. There was a pause. Then Stephen froze, staring at me, his jaw tight. Slowly, he sank back into his chair, the air finally settling a little. Grandma, still clutching the check, looked at me. Maybe he needs a plan, not just money. Uncle John nodded. Exactly. Help him set up a budget, get real with a financial counsellor, whatever it takes, but stop giving him money every time he cries. Stephen didn't say a word. He sat there, silent, looking like a kid who just realised he'd lost a game. My mom sighed, resting a hand on her forehead, and finally, the tension in the room started to ease. It wasn't perfect. There were still hurt feelings, and Stephen clearly didn't like being called out. But for the first time, I felt like maybe we had broken the cycle of his manipulation. I didn't know how the rest of the reunion would go, but at least this chapter was over. After the confrontation, the reunion settled into an uneasy quiet. Stephen barely touched his food, poking at his burger like it was poisoned. My mom kept shooting me thank you but don't push it for the looks, and Uncle John had returned to his chair with a defeated sigh. Even Aunt Linda seemed torn, quietly fussing with the napkins, pretending nothing had happened. I stayed nearby, watching Stephen like a hawk, partly because I didn't trust him to stay quiet, and partly because I wanted to see if he'd actually process what happened. For the first 20 minutes, he just stared out the window at the lake, arms crossed, jaw tight. Finally, he muttered, almost to himself. I didn't mean to, I just... Grandma, still clutching her check, softened her voice. Stephen, honey, you don't have to manipulate anyone to get help. We'll help, but you have to be honest with us. He looked at her, eyes glistening, and I could tell he was angry, hurt, and maybe a little shameful at once. He said nothing, just nodded slowly. Later, my mom came over to me quietly. You know, you were harsh, but necessary. He needs someone to call him out, or he'll keep doing this forever. I nodded, still tense. I didn't enjoy making family uncomfortable, but I couldn't stand to watch Stephen guilt-trip Grandma again. Meanwhile, Uncle John pulled Stephen aside. I could hear snippets. A responsibility, Stephen. You can't keep relying on us. You need a plan. Stop letting emotions run the show. Grow up. Stephen's voice was low, defensive. I just didn't know what else to do. I stayed back. It wasn't my fight anymore, at least not directly. For the first time, Stephen was facing someone holding him accountable without giving him money. The weird part. After a while, Stephen started talking to Aunt Linda about his apartment, bills, and even mentioned maybe looking for a second job. It was awkward, and I could tell he was testing the waters, but it was progress. The rest of the reunion had a different vibe. People were cautious but also relieved. Grandma stopped clutching the check like it was a lifeline. The kids ran around, laughing, and even Stephen smiled a few times, not manipulative smiles, just real ones. At the end of the day, as everyone was packing up, Stephen came over to me. His face was red, maybe from anger or embarrassment, I couldn't tell. "Hey, thanks for I don't know being honest." I raised an eyebrow. "Just don't guilt everyone for money next time, okay?" He smirked faintly, like he was accepting the challenge. "Yeah, okay." It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was the first time I'd seen Stephen confronted without him walking away with cash or a free pass. I had no illusions that this would be the last time, but at least someone finally stood up to him. As I drove home at night, I realized how delicate family dynamics could be. One cousin's manipulation almost ruined the reunion, but honesty, confrontation, and boundaries finally pulled it back from the edge. Maybe, just maybe, Stephen would start learning how to deal with life without playing the family like pawns. The next morning, the lake house was quiet, except for birds chirping and the occasional splash from early rises. Most of the family was still groggy, but the tension from the previous day lingered like fog. Breakfast was a tentative affair. Everyone sat around the table cautiously, like walking on eggshells. Stephen was there, of course, quietly sipping coffee. He hadn't said much, which was actually a relief. My mom tried to start small talk, but Stephen kept his answers short, almost sullen. I could tell he was reflecting or maybe scheming. With him, you never really knew. Grandma, meanwhile, was fussing over pancakes, humming softly. I watched her carefully. She seemed calmer than yesterday, but I could see her still carrying the emotional weight of having almost handed Stephen $1,000. I made a mental note to talk to her later about setting boundaries. Uncle John broke the silence. "So, Stephen, any plans for actually handling this stuff, or are we going to have another repeat next month?" Stephen shifted uncomfortably, finally speaking with a low, measured tone. I know I messed up. I let things spiral, and I used emotions to get by. I'll try to fix things, actually work on it." I raised an eyebrow, skeptical but cautiously optimistic. "Fix things, that's a start, but you have to show, not just say." He nodded, staring down at his coffee cup. There was a long pause before he finally muttered, "Yeah, I get that. No more shortcuts. I'll figure it out." The rest of breakfast was awkward but calm. The family seemed relieved that the drama hadn't continued, and even a few tentative smiles were exchanged. My mom whispered to me, "He's not perfect, but I think he's realizing something." I nodded, silently hoping she was right. Family gatherings shouldn't be about handing money over every time someone whines. They should be about connection. Later, Stephen went outside to help Uncle John with the grill. They didn't talk much, just worked together in silence. It was the first time I'd seen Stephen do something productive at a family event without manipulating anyone. I even caught him giving Grandma a small smile when she commented on how good the bacon smelled. It wasn't a big moment, but for him it was progress. By the time everyone started packing up to leave, Stephen was calmer, quieter, and actually helping clean up. He didn't ask for anything, didn't complain, and even joked a little with cousin David, who had been wary of him all weekend. On the car ride home, I reflected on everything. Confrontation is messy, emotional, and often uncomfortable, but sometimes it's the only way to break a pattern of manipulation. Stephen still had a long way to go, but seeing him at least attempt accountability was a small victory. I also realized the importance of boundaries, honesty, and speaking up even if it risks temporary conflict. Without it, Stephen would have walked away with cash and left the rest of us resentful and drained. And honestly, that reunion, as dramatic and exhausting as it was, might have been the turning point he needed. By the time everyone was saying their goodbyes, the mood had shifted. It wasn't cheerful or perfect, but it was real. Stephen helped carry colas to the car and even made a small joke about burning the hot dogs last night. No guilt trips, no theatrics, just normal, slightly awkward cousin humour. Grandma pulled me aside as we loaded the last of the chairs. "I know you were harsh yesterday, but thank you. I think Stephen needed that. Maybe he'll finally start seeing that he can't always play on our sympathy." I nodded, relieved she wasn't upset with me. "He's lucky you care so much, Grandma, but boundaries matter. You can't let him guilt you anymore." She sighed, smiling softly. "I know, I hate seeing him struggle." I put a hand on her shoulder. "We all do, but helping him with tools, not cash, is how we'll really make a difference." In the car, Stephen sat quietly in the back, earbuds in, staring out the window. I wasn't sure if he was reflecting on the confrontation, feeling embarrassed, or just enjoying some peace after the chaos. Either way, there was no begging, no guilt-tripping, no emotional theatrics. For once, he was silent and contained. When we got home, my mom pulled me aside. "I know it was intense, but thank you for standing up to him. He needs that kind of honesty, someone who won't let him manipulate the situation." I shrugged, exhausted but satisfied. It's not about me winning, it's about him finally learning that family isn't a cash machine. I just hope he takes it seriously. Over the next few days, we noticed small changes. Stephen started looking for extra work hours and even asked my Uncle John for tips on budgeting. He still has a long way to go, but it's progress, and more importantly, it feels earned. Reflecting on the reunion, I realized how powerful emotional manipulation can be within a family and how easy it is to fall into the trap of giving in out of guilt. But confrontation, though messy and uncomfortable, can create real change. It wasn't pretty, and feelings were hurt, but boundaries were finally set, and Stephen couldn't pull the same stunt again, at least not easily. The lake house now holds a different memory for me. It's not just the laughter of the kids or the smell of grilled food, it's the day we called Stephen out, forced him to face his behaviour, and saw a glimpse of accountability in him. Family drama is exhausting, often messy, and full of emotions you can't control. But sometimes, that messy confrontation is exactly what's needed to protect everyone and, ironically, help the person who's manipulating the most. I don't know if Stephen will ever stop relying on guilt entirely, but the reunion was a turning point. And for the first time, I left the family gathering feeling like maybe, just maybe, we did something right.